Imagine sitting at pick 25, desperate for defensive help, and the absolute best player on the board is a generational, explosive tight end. Drafting him means saying a painful goodbye to a fan favorite, but passing on him means proving this entire front office is full of liars. Before we dive into this absolute draft day madness, do me a massive favor and smash that like button, share this video, and subscribe to the channel. Let me be brutally honest with you all because I am genuinely starting to lose my mind thinking about this draft board. There is absolutely one position I am terrified of drafting at 25 overall, and that is a defensive tackle. I just cannot stomach the idea. We have so many glaring questions and red flags surrounding this year's interior defensive line group. If we stay at 25 and take a defensive tackle, I might actually throw my remote at the television. How many times have we watched this franchise blindly reach for a positional need, only to pass up a generational talent staring them right in the face? Now, could I be talked off the ledge if we trade back? Maybe. If our general manager works some magic, moves back to pick 29, and picks up an extra third-rounder, like the 85th overall pick, then my blood pressure might go down. If we do that, and the front office is absolutely in love with a guy like Kristen Miller out of Georgia or Peter Woods out of Clemson, I could learn to live with it. But without getting extra draft capital, it is a massive mistake. Look at how this team has operated all offseason. We clearly went into free agency with the mindset of adding rotational depth. We kept Jervin Dexter, and we still have a veteran presence like Grady Jarrett in the mix. The writing is on the wall that this probably is not going to be an elite, game-wrecking interior group this year, but forcing a pick in the first round when we simply do not love the options is a recipe for disaster. So, my rule is simple: absolutely no defensive tackles at 25. Now, let us flip the script. Is there a player I would completely sell the farm for and trade up into the top 10 or 11? You can never say 100% in this league because it all boils down to the absolute price point. How far are these elite guys dropping? And exactly how much draft capital is it going to cost us? I am completely against giving up a future first-round pick. We just cannot afford to mortgage our future. But there are a few prospects I have been relentlessly obsessing over. Take safeties and edge rushers like Caleb Downs and Reuben Bain Jr. If either of those defensive cornerstones somehow slips into that 12 to 14 range, would I pull the trigger and move up, assuming I keep next year's first? Absolutely. Then you have a guy like Jermud McCoy. If he is sitting there in the mid to late teens, I am seriously picking up the phone because I genuinely believe he possesses the raw tools to be the single best cornerback in this entire draft class. And what about Dylan Thiemann? I probably wouldn't leap up the board aggressively for him, but if he falls to 21 or 22, I would gladly toss a fourth-round pick to jump the line and secure him. But let me tell you my ultimate fantasy if we are talking about moving the 25th pick. The more I sit here and agonize over this, I would honestly rather package pick 25 and a future third-round pick, ship it off to New York, and trade for a proven monster like Dexter Lawrence. Boom. Problem solved, call it a day. Let's transition to the edge rushers, because the debate here is getting incredibly heated. I am a massive fan of Malachi Lawrence. The guy is a ridiculously juiced-up, twitchy pass rusher who can get to the quarterback in the blink of an eye. But the glaring question is, can he hold up as a run defender? Look at the modern NFL. The data over the last few years is undeniable. Because defenses are living in too high safety looks to stop the deep ball, offenses are running the football down our throats, especially out on the perimeter. That is exactly where the explosive runs happen. If you cannot set a heavy, physical edge, offensive geniuses like the Kyle Shanahans and the Sean McVays of the world will absolutely pepper you to death with outside zone, toss cracks, and counter runs all day long. This is why you need big, powerful edge defenders. While I think Malachi Lawrence is clearly the superior pure pass rusher compared to a guy like Dennis Sutton, Dennis Sutton is a vastly superior run defender who still offers more than enough juice to get to the quarterback. Because of that, I would personally pound the table for Dennis Sutton. The draft is so volatile. Some scouts think he could sneak into the back end of round 1, while others think he could plummet to the third round. It only takes one team to fall in love. Before we go any further, here's my official question of the day for you, and I need you to comment below right now. Who do you guys think is actually going to win the NFC North in 2026? Let me know your predictions in the comments. Speaking of the edge position, because this class is so deep, could we realistically double up on edge rushers in the first couple of days? Honestly, I would not be mad if we miraculously walked away with both an elite pass rusher and a physical edge setter. But practically speaking, I just do not see the front office pulling the trigger on 2 edge defenders early on, and the math shows you exactly why. We have to remember that our general manager is still heavily factoring in our versatile veterans moving forward. We have guys who ended last season getting significant snaps on the outside. Even if they bump inside to play some defensive tackle on passing downs, their primary role is still going to eat up snaps in that edge rotation. And whether you love it or hate it, barring a massive surprise or a shocking trade, Dayo Odeyingbo is firmly in the mix for 2026. He is not going to be a full-time interior guy, he is going to play heavily on the edge. So when you factor in Odeyingbo, Montez Sweat, Austin Booker, and Daniel Hardy, you are already looking at a very crowded room. Most NFL teams keep a maximum of 5, maybe 6 edges on the final 53-man roster. If we draft 2 top-tier guys on day 2, somebody important is getting cut or traded, and that roster math just does not add up right now. Let's dive into some mid-round draft crushes. If we are sitting at pick 89, I am banging the drum for Bryce Lance. The guy is an absolute big play machine. We all know how much our offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson, values explosive chunk plays. Bryce Lance, who is Trey Lance's brother, was literally on the national freak list heading into his final college season. He has strong hands, he is a menace in the red zone, and while his absolute ceiling might just be a lethal vertical threat as a number 2 receiver, I think he is going to be a fantastic pro. I wouldn't reach for him in the late 50s, but if he is sitting there at 89, I am rushing that card to the podium. What about a late-round piece? Skylar Gilhoward out of Texas Tech is an intriguing day 3 name. He might just be a rotational depth defensive tackle at the next level, but his grades when healthy were phenomenal. Bring him into training camp to compete, and I do not hate that pick at all. Then there is Zion Young. He is undeniably a perfect scheme fit, and one of the most violent edge setters in the run game this year. However, there are serious red flags, a DWI suspicion and a suspension for a post-game brawl back in 2022. We know this front office values high-character guys. Ideally, you trade back from 25 and draft him later, but if his character checks out internally, they might just take him early. So, who is my absolute dream pick at 25? It is so incredibly hard to say this year. I love Akeem Sitter, but he is an older prospect with a concerning injury history. Keldrick Falk is a developmental project who will need time to pop. Even Caden Proctor has grown on me as a future mauler at guard. There just isn't that one flawless prospect where I am screaming at the television to draft them no matter what. But this brings me to the absolute most shocking, controversial scenario that could unfold. What if Kenyon Sadiq is sitting there at 25? If Sadiq is on the board, there is an incredibly high probability he is the undisputed best player available. Drafting him would be an emotional gut punch because it almost certainly means it would be Cole Kmet's last season with the franchise. It is exactly like what happened when we brought in Luther Burden III to crowd the receiver room. It hurts, but that is the ruthless nature of building a championship team. Kenyon Sadiq is an explosive, dynamic nightmare for defenses. He is a willing blocker, he can play big slot, and Ben Johnson would have an absolute field day running 12 and 13 personnel with him. If the front office has him ranked as a top 15 talent, how can you look the fans in the eye and pass on him? The only position you ever skip on for best player available is quarterback, and that doesn't apply here. If a game changer like Sadiq, or a dominant lineman like Vega Ione is sitting right there, and the front office passes on them to draft for a lesser need, then I completely refuse to believe their best player available talk. It is a total bluff. That moment will be the ultimate, franchise-defining test of this regime's honesty. Are they actually going to stick to their word, or will they cave under the pressure?